Special greetings to the Archdiocese of Cebu and to all the participants of the National Laity Week. With honor, would like to share with you a special message from the Vatican. Our special guest is an African Cardinal from Ghana. He was the president of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace from October 2009 to January 2017. And Pope Francis named him as the first prefect of the Dicastery for the promotion of integral human development, which is now very busy promoting the care for our common home as contained in Laudato Si. He is one of Africa's most energetic church leaders, okay, and was formerly the Archbishop of Cape Coast. His Eminence speaks in English, Fante, which is the language in Ghana, French, Italian, German, Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. And today he'll speak to you in Cebuano. Okay. Brothers and sisters, let us welcome intently to the special message from the Vatican. Let us welcome His Eminence Cardinal Peter Turkson. Your Eminence.
Thank you, Father John. Thank you for your gracious words and kind words of introduction. So I also like to recognize and to greet all of you gathered at Cebu, the Archdiocese of Cebu, for this Laity conference. I'd like to greet the Archdiocese, the Archbishop, for hosting your meeting in Cebu. And as John said, I wish I could speak to you in Cebuana, but that will come probably next year when I have to speak to you again. So basically, on the 25th of May, we started celebrating the 5th anniversary of the encyclical letter Laudato Si of Pope Francis. And several events we planned to celebrate the event with were kind of had to be disbanded because of the COVID. And so we resorted to doing a lot of video conferencing and a lot of discussion through the Zoom, as we're doing now. And that made us also decide to extend the celebration of the Laudato Si for a whole year. And after that, even think about 5-year celebration. So we're still in the mood, we're still in the time of doing this. And by coincidence, in this period, in this year of Laudato Si, we also have had to celebrate the year of creation, the seasons of creation, which fits right into this. So briefly, this I think it's afternoon in Cebu, but morning here in Rome. I just like to briefly, since in the Catholic Church, the number 7 is very interesting and important. We talk about 7 sacraments. We talk about 7 corporal works of mercy, spiritual works of mercy. Since 7 is done a lot, I just thought I'll pick 7 features, 7 characteristics of the encyclical Laudato Si to present to you, in the hope that I know you've read the encyclical, you're all experts of the encyclical, but to simply leave you with something, tidbits that on your fingertips you can always talk about, and based on which you can present the encyclical to anybody you meet. Okay, so when you pick up Laudato Si, celebrating, care for our common home, one may backtrack a little bit, step back a little bit before the composition of Laudato Si. And stepping back would be stepping back to the first public celebration, first public liturgical celebration of Pope Francis after he had been elected Pope. His first public celebration was the celebration of the feast of St. Joseph as the foster father of Jesus. So that occasion of the celebration of the Feast of St. Joseph gave Pope Francis the occasion to reflect upon the role of care giving or taking care of something or somebody. And from that occasion, his reflection about taking care extended to taking care of creation and taking care of the poor. So already even before the encyclical was written, at that first homily, the Pope already kind of gave us a clue of what was deep down within him, something that he wanted to talk about and discuss. So for us, it was no wonder when, then he came out with the encyclical letter, the idea about Laudato Si, care for our common home, within which the care becomes integral care not only for nature, our common home, but also for the poor and for human beings and for humanity within our midst. So briefly, when one picks up the encyclical, one can identify certain clear characteristics which can be used as a key for also reading and understanding the encyclical. By the way, one can simply even look at the title. Laudato Si is a prayer taken from St. Francis of Assisi, and then care for our common home. Care is a big central message that we want to talk about. What does it mean to care for creation or care for anything? And from there, we go to common home. The sense of common. We know about common good. We know about the common destination of the goods of the earth. Common simply moves us away from individualistic thinking and already introduces us to thinking about a group, thinking in communion with everything and everybody that we live with. So one can already even talk a lot about the title itself, but that's not what I want to do this morning. This one, I want to go back to these 7 characteristics and briefly share with them to you. The first C, let us see as in Charles. The first C I want to talk about this morning from the encyclical is the C of continuity. Continuity. And it is to make the point that the central message of the encyclical Laudato Si, which is ecological, are we still on? The central message of the ecology is integral ecology. Okay, integral ecology is the central message of the encyclical. Okay, from chapter 4 on. Now, integral ecology, incidentally, had been hinted at and talked about before. Pope Paul VI talked about integral ecology in Populorum Progressio. When he was developing the concept of development, he did not only say that development was the new name of peace, but he drew our attention to the fact that in pursuing the theme of development, we should ensure that we do not abuse the environment. Care for the nature and care for the environment was a thing that he talked about. Earlier on, his predecessor, John the 23rd, had talked about the same concept of integrity in the context of education, educating anybody in a holistic, integral way. So the sense of integral anything began already from John the 23rd, and Paul VI took it up. And Paul VI then fashioned what we may call, a concern for nature, okay, ecological sensibility, as it were, care for nature. So natural ecology, if you want. Then after Paul VI, Pope John Paul II then took up the same idea of ecology and extended it, saying that it's not only nature that has an ecology to be protected and to be respected, but every human being also requires a certain conditions of a moral stance to enable him live successfully. So a set of conditions, moral conditions, also need to prevail to make and to ensure a successful, living of human life itself. So with that, John Paul II also introduced human ecology. Then we move on to Benedict XVI in Caritas in Veritate. And in Caritas in Veritate, Benedict XVI takes up these two expressions used by Paul VI and John Paul II and develops it further, talking also about the need for society to also have an ecology, that there is also, society itself also has an ecology to be respected. Life in society, the interrelationship that we have, human being a relational being, living in society requires that we observe a certain set of conditions to make our living in society successful and possible and healthy. And so we start with natural ecology, we come to human ecology, and now we come to social ecology, ecology of society, and finally Pope Benedict will talk about the ecology of peace. Now since then, having all of this, Pope Francis then in Laudato Si refers to, roots himself in all of this development and then puts them together in integral ecology, expanding it to include ecological conditions, labor conditions, and a sort of stuff like that. So we say that the teaching of integral ecology is a teaching done in continuity with the preceding bishops, the preceding popes, I mean. All the popes who've gone before, and for whatever they've taught about, ecology enables Pope Francis now to put them all together in integral ecology. So that is the first characteristic of Laudato Si. It's a teaching in continuity with other popes who've gone before Pope Francis. The second C of Laudato Si is the C of collegiality. Collegiality. Collegiality, as you may know, is an expression which is used a lot between Pope and bishops, or between bishops, needing to think together or act together. Now, we still refer to this expression, collegiality, and say it's a feature of Laudato Si because the encyclical is being written by Pope Francis, but he decides not only to quote from past popes and past writers in the church fathers, popes, and all of that. Pope Francis now also begins to quote from episcopal conferences, what other bishops around the world have written and said about ecology, about nature, and about care for nature. So what then we like to say is that it appears as if Pope Francis, in writing Laudato Si, decided to write it together in collegiality with bishops around the world, quoting from what they have written and what they have said on different occasions in the past. So that being the case, collegiality about as a feature of Laudato Si simply refers to the fact that in Laudato Si, Pope Francis is not the only one speaking and teaching, but several episcopal conferences are also, invited to address a message and to teach, like your conference in the Philippines, like the Bishops' Conference of South Africa, like the Bishops' Conference of Canada, like the Bishops' Conference of United States, like those in Germany, Britain. So the different episcopal conferences and what they have said about the environment are all cited and quoted, and that is what we refer to as, collegiality. For us, when we make this observation that the Pope referred and used material from other bishops' conferences to write Laudato Si, then what we like to add is that if the Pope used material from bishops to write Laudato Si, then now that Laudato Si is written, bishops must also come on board to help teach and diffuse and spread the message of Laudato Si. So the Pope used your message. Now it's up to you to also come, take the encyclical and talk about it, teach it, and make it diffuse. So we want to formulate over here a responsibility for bishops to take Laudato Si and make it known, because the Pope raised down to use their message. So it's now up to them to use also the encyclical letter and talk about it, make it known, teach it to their faithful and all of that. Because unfortunately, as we speak now, there are still certain places in the world where bishops and even some priests have take issues, have problem with Laudato Si and think it's, you know, it's not real what it's saying and all of that, its content. So it's a challenge that we need to address. Then after collegiality, we talk about the future of Laudato Si, which is clear from the beginning. Right from the beginning, chapter 1, the Pope invites to a conversation, to a dialogue. He says, let's come together. We face a common issue or common problem. Let's come together and see, talk together, think together from our different sources of wisdom and knowledge to see how we can jointly and together find a solution to this problem, deal with the challenges of ecology and all. So it's an invitation to dialogue. It's an invitation to conversation. Conversation not only on a parish level or among you as you're doing now, but conversation also among the different sciences, theologians, climate scientists, politicians and all, from different areas. And not simply that, but also religious groups. The Pope refers to the different wisdoms of the religious traditions. So, it's not only the Catholic Church and the Bible and scriptures, but also the traditional religious wisdom of Buddhism, Islam, Shintoism, and all. So the Pope is inviting everybody come on board. Let's talk together, discuss together, dialogue together to find a solution to the problem. So that is the thing. So the third feature of Laudato Si is conversation. The Pope invites the conversation, invites everybody to bring their point of view towards a finding, a discovery of a problem to this. And this invitation continues even today, as we now talk about climate change, global warming, and the need to find solutions to it. Then if we are coming together to converse or to dialogue, then the question is, what are we conversing about? What are we dialoguing about? And the answer to that takes us to the fourth C of the seven. And what we dialoguing or conversing about is care. Care, C-A-R-E, care for our common home, as in the title of the encyclical. The central thing we want to talk about is how to care for the earth, our common home. And this expression, again, is very interesting and important. Because before Laudato Si, the typical expression with which we presented and talked about our relationship with creation was stewardship. Everybody talked about our sense of stewardship towards creation. Now, a steward is a caretaker, but caretaker who may be doing this for money, who may be doing this for an interest or be doing it for anything. A steward may have a task to fulfill. Okay, so now stewardship is used only twice in Laudato Si. In the rest of the instances or cases when the Pope wants to talk about our relationship with the earth or nature, the Pope talks about care. So in Laudato Si, care replaces stewardship as a way of describing our relationship towards the earth. The Pope wants us to care for the earth. And when one cares for something, one is passionate, one is committed, one loves what he cares for, and one takes care of it. Remember, in the book of Genesis, the duty that was entrusted to Adam and Eve, created first and put in the garden, was to cultivate it and to care for it. Care for it. Now, when you care for a garden, you know what you do. You pull out the weeds, you dig around the flowers or the crops, you manure it, that's care. You pay attention to every detail in the garden so that the thing remains a garden. When you remove care from a garden, it becomes a bush. It becomes a wilderness. It becomes a bush that doesn't produce crops, that doesn't produce flowers or anything. So care is the difference. Care describes the difference between wilderness and anything of attention and care. So a garden. So between a garden and a wilderness, the difference is care. How much care do we show for anything to make it a garden instead of making it become wilderness? The last observation I want to make about care is it's an interesting thing, and it relates everything Laudato Si to St. Francis of Assisi. You remember that St. Francis of Assisi talks about Brother Sun, Sister Moon, and the earth, our mother, and things like that. The Pope talks about the elements of nature in terms of a kinship, as if they are kinsmen or kinspeople of the human race. So according to Pope Francis, we are related to the things of creation as if they are brothers, sisters, parents, whatever. This is also very true, based on one expression in the Old Testament. Remember, God put Adam and Eve to care for the garden. The Hebrew word is very close to the name of your movement. You talk about Shema, to listen. There's another Hebrew verb, which is shamar, to keep. Not shama, but shamar, okay? S-H-A-M-A-R. That is to keep. And that verb, you remember when Cain killed his brother Abel, and God came and said, "Where is your brother?" Cain's answer was, "Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's shomer? Am I the one who keeps my brother?" Making sure that he stays alive. Now, when we use the same shamar for creation, then what the Pope wants us to do is to recognize that creation is for us not some object to be abused and treated anyhowly, but it's as if it's a brother, as if it's a sister, as if it's a relation. So the word shamar, to keep, from the biblical instance of it, invites us to be more passionate, more committed, more loyal. Bush and the garden is how so that's the crucial central concept of this encyclical: care for the earth and care for the poor. So this is the fourth C. Now, when we begin to discuss care and recognize that we must do something, then the encyclical says that when we discover how we have not properly cared for creation, then we recognize that it's time to change. And that change is ecological conversion. So C of conversion is the fifth C that we want to talk about: ecological conversion. We should convert. We should change in our way we relate to creation, in our way we relate to our environment, in our way we abuse it, and the way we exploit it. So if care leads us to recognize that we're not keeping the world as a garden, but we're making it becoming a desert and a bush, then the thing is to change. The thing is to convert. The thing is to begin to move away from the practices we've adopted and put on a new attitude or new stand towards creation. So that is ecological conversion. The response to our care for creation is to convert, is to change our way of relating to creation, the earth and everything, and to make it wholesome and healthy again. So ecological conversion, another crucial expression in the encyclical, is that our response to the need to care. Because in the care, the Pope refers to scientific evidence about temperature rise and everything, acidification of the ocean and all of that. And the only response is that we move away from all of that. We change fossil fuel and whatever, we need to change our lifestyle and the way we adopt and do things. So this change of lifestyle, ecological conversion, is very crucial, and that is the fifth C that we can talk about. Now, when Pope Francis invites us to ecological conversion, he also recognizes that people sometimes do not change or cannot change until and unless they are motivated. Okay, unless they are motivated to change. And so the motivation to change, to recognize everything, how badly we've been treating everything and all of that, comes from what Pope Francis calls education in ecological citizenship. So we need to be educated to understand that we are all ecological citizens. Citizens not because we form ecological clubs, ecological parties, and ecological groups. We are ecological citizens because we are related intimately with nature and the earth. Our bodies are from the dirt of the earth. Our bodies are fed with food produced from the earth. So the products of the earth are not only our bodies, but they also nourish and sustain us. And it's possible for us to live because the atmosphere and the air we breathe is also part of nature. So our life is sustained by the ecological system, the structure. Ecosystem sustains our life. So when the Pope talks about the need for education, it is to be educated in ecological citizenship. And when we truly understand that we are ecological citizens, it means also that we should not also abuse the earth. We should not put ourselves in the center and think that the Bible says, dominate and all of that, so we exercise extreme power over it. That's not the sense of dominate and whatever. The dominate is to ensure that the air produces what it has to feed your body. So there are all the different ways we think about the earth and makes us abuse it, putting ourselves at the center and thinking that the earth belongs to us and we can use it anyhowly. Then Seneca says no. Ecological citizenship means that we should not put ourselves in the center, we should put ourselves in the circle of nature, recognizing that we also are part of nature. Our bodies, at least, are part of nature, and it is sustained by the product of the earth. So educating in ecological citizenship, according to Pope Francis, is a crucial way of motivating people to change, to do ecological conversion. So ecological citizenship is, the sixth C that we can talk about. And with ecologicals, when we are educated, to be a true ecological citizenship, recognizing truly who we are, then we cannot fail but then lift our eyes and begin to admire creation and adore God who created everything that we have. So this will lead us to the seventh C, which is the C of contemplation. Contemplation in worship, contemplation in celebration. When we recognize that that's what it is, the encyclical begins with a prayer, Laudato Si, may you be praised, O God. And it ends with a prayer, two types of prayer, one for Christians and one for non-Christians. So it's all captured in prayer, and it is rooted in the spirituality of St. Francis of Assisi, who sees God in almost everything that God has created. So contemplation, which is the seventh C of Laudato Si, invites us to recognize and to celebrate creation with all of humanity, St. Francis, the saints, and all. And invites us, for example, to look at Psalm 19, where we pray, the heavens announce the glory of God, and the firmament, ensures the praise of God. Creation praises God. And when we admire creation for what it is, we also end up praising God for creation, celebrating it and all of that. And as you are gathered in Cebu, you'll be celebrating the Eucharist. You'll be celebrating Mass almost every day. You'll be using bread, which is a fruit of the earth and work of human hands. You'll be using wine, which is fruit of the earth and the fruit of the wine stalk. This is creation. The fruit of the earth become the elements with which we celebrate the Eucharist. So we celebrate the presence of Jesus in our lives at consecration using science that belong to nature. So in a very real way, our lives are so connected with nature, not only as natural beings, but also as spiritual beings. And the work of our salvation is also related as such with everything in creation. So contemplation or celebration invites us to thank God for creation. And thanking God for creation means also we respect creation. Therefore, what we want to say is that there's nobody who loves God, who has love for God, but does not love what God has created. It's impossible. We cannot love God when we do not love what he has created. When we love God, then we must also love his handiwork, the things that he has created. And if we do not respect or love what God has created, then our love for God is also not genuine. It's also not sincere. So all of it put together means that we cannot, as the Pope wants us to, recognize, we cannot really truly be people of faith without showing concern for what God has made, creation of the earth and the creation of human beings. So God created both of them, the earth, nature as a garden, and human beings as the occupant of this garden. And so when our love for God is sincere, then our love for what God has created would also be sincere. Therefore, when the earth, through abuse, is crying to us, and the poor, through oppression and lack of justice, are also crying to us, then Pope Francis is saying that both the earth and human beings are crying to us. Then integral ecology becomes complete there. Concern not only for nature, but concern also for the human person. So let me not bore you. I've bored you enough. Let me kind of bring the 7 C's here. And the only other thing that I want to say is what Father John, about the seasons of creation. The seasons of creation, which we just celebrate at the beginning of September, it's an important, interesting occasion, which also ties in with the ecological conversation that we're holding, but with a specific detail. The Orthodox Church begins its annual celebration of the year on the 1st of September, and they celebrate that as a day of creation, prayer for creation. So after Pope Francis has written the encyclical Laudato Si, he decided to bring the Catholic Church to join the Orthodox Church in praying for creation on the 1st of September. So Pope Francis asked the Catholic Church then to pray for creation with the Orthodox Church on the 1st of September. And the ecumenical group that we call the Global Catholic Alliance or Covenant, identify this and also celebrate on that the seasons of creation. And calling them the seasons of creation is also very interesting. In the Philippines, you live in the tropics, like we do in Ghana. So we don't have winter, we don't have spring, we don't have summer, and we don't have autumn. Temperature-wise, it's either hot or it is raining. So it's either summer or not even winter, but it's either dry or rainy. Just that inside, in Philippines, you also have the typhoons and stuff that come through. So the temperatures make the difference. But elsewhere in Europe and elsewhere, you have the seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn. And the seasons of creation invite us to recognize that that cycle, that system, that structure is actually also what supports our life. Living in the tropics, sometimes we do not realize this, but even in our case, if there's no rainy season and it's all dry season, we cannot grow anything. So we need the rainy season to be able to have the dry season of the harvest. When it's only dry season, there will be nothing to harvest. Come for the potatoes to be put in the ground, for the tulip in Holland to be planted, okay, and the spring must come, and for the thing to burst out, and the winter and all. The vine does not grow in the tropics because it doesn't have winter sleep. So the seasons of creation invite us to recognize the rhythm of nature, which makes things grow and which support the life cycle of different things. And most importantly then, the lesson of the seasons of creation is that our world is sometimes also called the cosmos. Cosmos. When we refer to our world in terms of the Greek expression cosmos, it's also very meaningful because the word cosmos, which is the Greek word for creating, kosmeo, to create anything, also makes us think about something that in Cebu, there are certainly ladies there among the laity. So you can turn to the ladies and ask them whether they can explain what cosmetics mean to you. Cosmetics are the things that, ladies use to make themselves beautiful, right? Lipstick, eyelashes, and all of that for beauty. But if it is for beauty, then you know that you don't put the lipstick on your eye and you don't put your eye on your lipstick. So everything must be put in its own place and in order. So when you have order, you have beauty. And when you have beauty, then you also have something that sustains life. So orderliness and beauty go together. And that is what the word cosmos invites us to do. So when we refer to the earth as a cosmos, then the understanding is that let us recognize the earth as an ordered system. Genesis chapter 1 tells us that God created the light, then he guided the waters, then he created the animal, then so everything in its order. When you maintain the order, then there's creation, and there's beauty, there's order, and human life can thrive or be sustained. When you take away order, you get to chaos. And in chaos, no human being can live. When there's no order, there can be no creation. And there cannot be a system that supports human life and human experience. So the seasons of creation, beyond praying with the Orthodox Church for the gift of creation, also invite us to consider the delicate nature of creation itself. If we do not do the type of things which maintain the order and the orderliness of creation, but abuse things, then we will turn creation as cosmos into chaos. When there's no order, then human life itself will not be possible in this chaotic, world. So cosmos, or the seasons of creation, invite us to recognize the orderliness of everything and help maintain the orderliness, respecting the sustainability of the systems which support our lives. So I have bored you enough. I want to stop here and thank you for the occasion to share these thoughts with you. And I hope they're useful for you. If you forget anything, raise your fingers. 7 sacrament, 7 C's: continuity, collegiality, conversation, care, conversion, citizenship, and contemplation. And you would have read the whole encyclical. Thank you for inviting me.
Cardinal Peter Turkson, the first prefect of the Dicastery for the Promotion of Integral Human Development from the Vatican. Thank you very much from the people of the Philippines, and we appreciate very well the 7 C's of Laudato Si. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to you.